The Pledge, your hometown news talk.
Your hometown news talk, 96.5 and 1260. The Pledge, Parker and Davis this morning. It is Monday, June 29th. Very important event, Christ Memorial Church. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and we'll continue to talk about it right up until the event. It's a movie about hope. Where there's hope, there's life. It's called Hope Bridge.
That's right. It's been brought to the Holland area by Jeff and Sherry Elhart, the family, Elhart family, because they have encountered and experienced a tragedy in their own family in which they lost their brother, Wayne Elhart, to suicide.
It's becoming way too common.
Suicide is becoming way too common. And so they brought the movie and the discussion to West Michigan. And today, joining us from the Mental Health Foundation is Christy Buck, the executive director, who will also be on the stage on the 29th. Christy, welcome to the show.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. Now, prior to this, did you know the Elhart family at all?
No, I did not know them at all, but I'd passed their dealership a million times, and I've seen Jeff on the air. And so when I heard the news, it came home that any family, it doesn't matter your race, ethnicity, anything, can be affected by this.
Absolutely. And so did Jeff reach out to you, or how did you get pulled into the program?
Small world. We have a mutual friend, and she suggested that Jeff connect with us when he decided to bring the movie here. And he actually came to us to see if we wanted to be a display booth. So there on hand, the night of the movie, will be different booths with information that will be available to those who attend about where they can seek access for services, what's out there doing a lot of the work in the community. Because it's one thing to bring a movie, and now you're raising awareness, but the next thing is, how are we going to get people help and treatment and even more information out there?
And so often people think mental health, well, I don't have mental health issues, and yet there's mental health issues are a wide array of topics. Let's talk about that, because I think everybody is affected at some level with a mental health deal.
Yeah, and what it is, and that is the stigmatizing thing that we have to deal with, is the term mental illness, all right? Because we know that mentality is how you think, act, and feel. And so the minute that is affected, yes, it can become an illness. It can come in a mild form, moderate, or severe. We want to work right now to increase awareness about what it's like at a mild form, and that could be following anything that happens in someone's life. So it could be the loss of a loved one, a move to a different home, kids going off to school, empty nest. Okay, those things can be triggers for this illness called depression. When it gets to the moderate phase, then it can get a little bit more serious, because now it's being left untreated. And when it gets severe, then we need to be on top of this. And so we need to begin to recognize when it's affecting someone at that 1 out of 5 people.
1 out of 5 people.
Yeah, and some stats are even out there 1 in 4. So it's 20 to 25% of people suffer from a mental health disorder.
Christy Buck, Executive Director with the Mental Health Foundation of West Michigan. We're talking about an event on Monday. Christy, mental health issues sound so big. They're affecting 20% of the people. Can we ever get on top of this?
Yeah, we can. And a lot of it is recognizing every day in people, noticing someone's behavior change, how they're acting, how they're thinking, and how they're feeling. And so the Mental Health Foundation has a huge program where we go out and we educate schools, communities about mental health disorders. And we put it very simply that when how they're thinking, acting, and feeling is affected by something that might be going on in their life, then I need to do something.
Some of those feelings obviously are inward, but there are triggers that trigger these events. For instance, bullying. Bullying
is a big one. All right. So how we treat someone every day, and how somebody interprets that is for themselves. So when I see someone possibly being picked on, bullied, it doesn't mean automatically that they're going to have depression. All right, everybody processes things differently. So every day I need to be reminded that how I treat someone can have an effect on how someone thinks, acts, and feels. So every day how I treat someone, whether it be in the grocery store, whether it be somebody on the road, road rage, I need to go back and I need to really take it simply to the next point. Be nice.
Because on the other hand, an act of kindness can really turn the trick for somebody, right?
Totally.
I mean, you never know how that's going to impact somebody when you're kind.
And every day we need to reach out to people in general, because I know that how I can affect how they're thinking, acting, and feeling. And remember, that's how I defined their mental health. Now, other triggers, though, can be things such as a change in your lifestyle. So there is a high suicide rate amongst people 65 years and older. And so people look at me when I give that statistic out, people are shocked. How can someone at that time in their life want to die by suicide? Well, again, change of life. Maybe their exercise, they've slowed down in that. Maybe they have an illness. Maybe their spouse has an illness. Maybe they're home taking care of their spouse. Maybe their loved ones have all moved away. So we need to be really mindful of this.
They, quote unquote, have nothing to live for.
That can be something that someone might say, too. Thank you for bringing that up, because there are warning signs up there. So when people begin to say that, I have nothing to live for, believe it or not, that is a warning sign if you combine it with possibly behavioral differences that might be going on.
Or other changes in their life. You have a program that you have, I know there's working over in the Zeeland School District called the NICE campaign. Talk to us about Be Nice.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Be Nice, period. And that actually all encompasses everything about mental health. So it's beyond just bullying. It really is taking it seriously to begin to notice, and in the word notice a change in someone's behavior. Okay? Whether it be by how somebody's treating them or whether or not something might be going on in their life. I have a responsibility. I can notice. Is somebody isolating themselves? Are they not coming to school? Is my coworker not coming to work? Is my coworker alienating themselves, not eating lunch with us, gathering with us, calling me back, answering emails, everything? Invite myself to go talk to that person.
That's the I in nice.
Yeah. It would be big if I invited myself to actually go up to someone and say, hey, I'm noticing this in you, and I'm really super worried about you. Can you imagine? At a high school level, it would be inviting yourself to go let someone else know. So it could be going out to the counselor and saying, I'm noticing this in my best friend. Maybe they're abusing substances. C, challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to keep at it with that person. Not just stopping, all right, I've noticed and invited. Challenge yourself to keep up with it, because that's your friend. And then ultimately the E is to empower. Empower that person with treatment. Empower that person with hope. Empowering. So that's the NICE. So a lot of times people laugh and go, I didn't know that there meant something. Oh, yeah. It's bigger than just being nice. It is to notice, invite, challenge, empower.
So often parents look at students or their kids and they say, well, they're just being teenagers, or they're just sullen. It's just a phase, if you will. But unfortunately, that necessarily isn't always the case.
That is not always the case.
And so digging in a little bit deeper and just saying what's going on and noticing those cues, like, disinterest or lack of friends or change of friends, or maybe even just an isolation behavior isn't necessarily just typical teenage behavior, is it?
Right. And, we know that there's phases that kids are going to go through, when they're finally figuring out, I don't like sports anymore. I really wanted to be in the musicals. Okay, that is normal teenage behavior. But when they're not finding anything to do after they've left something that they've been doing a lot, they're not going to do it. That is a red flag. We need to begin to pay attention. And when our kids' friends are changing, we need to pay attention.
Christy, it does seem like in our early years of education, we are taught to be nice. And there are adults supervising our activity, so we're nice. But we lose those lessons by the time we get to middle school. And in high school, it seems like, well, we don't have to be nice anymore.
Middle school is a key age, because a lot of kids are finding who they are, making their friends. And again, we're going back to, and this is where our program that takes place in schools challenges kids to begin to notice, invite, challenge, empower, how you're treating somebody every day. And what we know is that if we can focus on 80% of kids to change their behaviors, that 10%, seriously, there is usually one person who, a lot of time people will call them the queen bee, all right, that they are causing and stirring. But if we could get the bystanders to come up. And again, it's all mental health based. It is really about focusing on every day, and this is how I speak to kids and audiences, especially at the high school level. You have the opportunity to save a life, to change a life, just how you treat someone every day. Who wants to save a life today? And of course, students will raise their hand. It's not just through CPR. This is saving lives through how somebody is thinking, acting, and feeling.
96.5 and 1260 The Pledge, talking this morning with Christy Buck, Executive Director of the Mental Health Foundation here in West Michigan, located in Grand Rapids, but you have programs throughout the state.
Yeah, we're in 47 different school districts. And so a year ago, we made the commitment to have all of our curriculum and everything about the program in a kit, so people can order kits online. And in addition, we also do go into companies and we do lunch and learns, and we talk about be nice. And it goes, again, it's mental health based. It's me knowing that every day I can affect coworkers, and also I can see when somebody might be struggling at work.
Are those adults, are they receptive to your message? Are they surprised that you're there
amazing.
even talking about it?
Yeah, it's amazing. And a lot of times in those adult presentations, we will put out statistics, and people are really shocked that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in America.
Is it possible, because a friend asked me about this, because we've been promoting Hope Bridge, the event on June 29th now for quite a while here at the station, but is it because suicide is becoming an acceptable practice in our culture? Because there
it's always
is a
been
stigma
there.
of there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm thinking of Dr. Kevorkian and sort of the whole end of life issues.
In Oregon, they have legislation that allows assisted suicide.
So,
right?
I mean, what I'm hearing you say is that we have an opportunity to help people turn around from it, and should be looking at ways to fight. That is sort of your solution.
Yes.
And that's where we should be going versus, oh, it's okay.
Yes. When you speak to someone who has attempted, all right, and they have survived their attempt, they, in most cases, will report that it was the psychological pain. And that, believe it or not, lasts for minutes, an hour. All right,
And then
so
it's over.
Yeah. And so that's why we have the opportunity to begin to notice when somebody is feeling that way. Invite myself to sit with that person for an hour. I'm not leaving you alone until I can get you help, until someone comes. We teach a course called Mental Health First Aid. I don't know if you've heard of this, but this is a national movement, all right? It came after the Sandy Hook incident. And a lot of people put pressure on our legislators to begin the conversation nationally about mental health disorders, about mental illness. So our government has plucked a lot of money all over the United States for mental health first aid to be the chosen course for all Americans to participate in. It's an 8-hour course. And you come in, I'm teaching one tonight, a half course tonight, and then the follow-up will be next week. And you learn how to, for one, the first hour is about stigma. Mm-hmm. All right, and we got to understand that we got to break that stigma before you can even move on to be a mental health first aider. And then it teaches the participants a model of how to assess somebody who might be at risk for suicide or harm, how to listen non-judgmentally, how to give reassurance and information, encourage them to seek professional help, and encourage self-help support strategies. You with me? That's the model, ALGEE. It's an amazing course. We in Kent County educated last year in 8 months 1,500 people. And so right now we're zipping along between January and now. The Mental Health Foundation is part of the movement. We've done over 1,000 people.
That's fantastic. So if someone wanted to find out where the courses were and where they could take them, because they're offered for free.
Yes.
Where do they go?
They can go on to the Mental Health Foundation site. We're offering courses. And then also here in Ottawa County, they can go to the Ottawa County Community Mental Health site also.
Okay.
I think we should continue the
I
discussion.
agree.
Christy, if you've got a couple more moments
Sure.
when we come back. Your hometown news talk, 96.5 and 1260, The Pledge.
Your hometown news talk.
Baby, do you understand me now? Sometimes I feel a little mad. I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood.
We're having this conversation this morning because we want to understand mental health issues. It's such a big, big issue in our society today, and we're trying to provide a few answers on Monday with the movie Hope Bridge, where there's hope, there's life. It's not only a free movie, it's a free conversation, too. Christy Buck is the executive director of the Mental Health Foundation here in West Michigan. Christy, I want to go back to the stigma thing. What's the first step to getting rid of this stigma of mental health issues?
It's to begin to get educated. And so we like to even break down the word stigma, lessen the stereotyping. Don't stereotype people into classifications of crazy, nuts, psycho, stupid. Okay, you notice a change in somebody's behavior that might look different. You don't say that they're crazy or are you off your meds. That's stigmatizing. So we need to talk about it like we would talk about any other illness. If somebody is experiencing a change in their behavior, then they might be sick. They might be lonely. They might be isolating themselves. They may be discontinuing their treatment, okay? Like I would describe someone who possibly has epilepsy or cancer or a heart disease. They might be sick. They might be not taking their medications. They're having more seizures lately, okay? So when we explain when we do our stigma activity, that's what we do. Give me the words that remind you. What do you think of when I say the word mental illness? And we know. We have to stop and think about that. And we have to get rid of those words and begin to look at it that it is an illness like cancer, heart disease, epilepsy, diabetes.
Some people, when they think of mental illness, they think of weakness.
Of course they do, but it's not. It is an illness, and it takes place in the brain. And just like any other illness, right? It affects some part of your body. And so we have to stop like taking everything from the neck and above and not thinking that can get ill also, just like any other part in our body.
And so often people isolate themselves or they isolate each other if there's a concern about, because we don't have that problem here, or we'll keep it in the family. This is what you hear a lot along the West Michigan coast. The family's dealing with this, and the family doesn't have the resources to deal with it. In fact, it stigmatizes it even worse, doesn't it?
You got it. And just like any family, remember we have the old casserole syndrome, right? Where we hear someone's coming out of the hospital. You know what? We're going to set up meals for that person for a week. Okay, so imagine if somebody is coming out of a psychiatric hospital with depression after possibly maybe they have thought about suicide, because that's how you get into a hospital, a psychiatric hospital, is if you weren't harmed yourself or others. And imagine if you went over there and said, I'm cooking food for you for a week, because I can't imagine that would be the last thing I would want to do. And I do think about that, right? That would be the last thing. My mom had depression, clinical depression, and we were a family who did not talk about it. And it was quite scary. I was 16 years old. I didn't know what was going on. But my grandma, a Greek immigrant, she came right in and moved in with us for, 4 weeks.
She was going to take care of the problem, wasn't she?
Yeah, but exactly. She helped with that.
Yeah.
But we still didn't talk about it because everybody, back then, especially in the 70s, it was quite stigmatizing.
See, for a lot of people, Christy, they say, just get over it.
And again, are you going to tell someone with a broken leg, get over it?
No,
right?
No, you're not. But those attitudes, though, are out there, though.
Right. And that's why Jeff and the family, they are really making a movement here. I am so proud of them. I mean, I could cry, because God certainly has led us to each other, and it's through this movie, and it is just going to be an amazing night.
Have you seen the movie yet?
No, I have not seen the movie yet. I did see the trailer, and Jeff and we just met a week ago, and I had been put in contact with him, and I had taken the week off last week, and I said, I'm going out to Holland. I have to meet with Jeff. So we set up a meeting, and we spent 3 hours talking. I mean, for the first 45 minutes, we had to cut through and understand that I get it and Jeff gets it. And I'm really proud of their family right now for coming forward and talking about what we need to be talking about, and that is an illness called depression.
Of course, Christy's referring to Jeff and Sherry Elhart, the Elhart family who lost to Wayne Elhart to suicide a few months back, and they have created a movement here along the West Coast. They're bringing Hope Bridge to Holland. It'll be at Christ Memorial Church. We want to encourage everybody. We don't care if you've never ever struggled with depression or anxiety or even had any qualms about mental illness ever in your family, still come and learn, because you might be working alongside, you might have a neighbor, you might have someone in your classroom, if you're a teacher, who is exhibiting some of the signs and symptoms that we need to be aware of, that so often we just figure, well, they're just going through something right now. And yet we can learn how to notice these things. Now, Christy, there'll be a lot of people on hand. Your organization, the Mental Health Foundation, will be there. I think you're also doing a little bit of a platform talk afterwards.
There's going to be a panel discussion, you got it, where people can ask questions. And of course, we want to be able to provide a lot of information. So there's going to be some different information booths there. And so we're going to be part of that, in addition to just answering questions. So the movement just doesn't stop after the movie is shown. It really is about beginning to leave and say, how can I make a difference? For one, is there someone in my life that possibly I should reach out to? And then in addition, maybe you leave thinking, you know what, I'm going to bring this information to where I work. I'm going to bring this information. I want my school educated. I want our teachers educated. I want our city council educated. Again, I think parents groups should be
definitely getting together and going through the program that you guys offer in terms of awareness to signs and symptoms, because we do have an epidemic I'm going to use the word, we have a bit of an epidemic among high school students.
Yeah, it's the second leading cause of death amongst high school students in the United States, and the second leading cause of death amongst college students. And what we know is that 75% of mental health disorders come on by the age of 24 years old.
That means something's brewing there.
Half by age 14.
Wow.
And so what we're talking about, and one of the most common mental health disorders, and I'm just going to say it, is anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so anxiety can come in a mild form. And we all can have anxiety about certain things. Now, if it's something that cripples my life, it keeps me from doing things to involve myself in activities because I have such anxiety. Okay, I have a good friend who says, I can't be on the panel. I get way too much anxiety. I called her, and that's okay. But it doesn't cripple her. So she has it in a mild form when she gets into certain situations. But then it can get worse if it's not treated. And so what we do is we see a high level of anxiety. The median age of onset for anxiety is 11 years old.
Really? That's surprising.
That's the middle, right? So you take that youngest. And so now we can't dismiss kids who might have anxiety when I'm dropping them off at the daycare facility. We have to have daycare providers understand that, maybe this is a form of anxiety. So what can I do? Not dismiss their feelings. It doesn't mean you have to go into therapy mode and start, asking a 5-year-old what's going on, but it is, I'm here for you. Reassuring them your mom will be back, reassuring them that the day will be fine. I mean, I'm just using that as an example, but we need to begin to understand that this is a big illness, anxiety. And it can lead to depression.
And of course, then can lead to isolation, and then kids thinking about. And if you compound that with maybe a little bit of bullying over here in school, or not feeling like I fit into the image that everybody else I see on the internet or in magazines, after a while, and it just compounds and compounds until you've got a bad situation.
Exactly.
And then we write that off as, the teenage years.
Exactly. But then what we kind of go back now is noticing at the beginning when someone's behavior has been changing.
True.
They are not involving themselves and finding out what's going on. We need to look at that. And by the time now, we have this college expectation, for our high school seniors going off to college. We have to really consider the changes that these kids go through when they get into college.
96.5 and 1260, the pledge. It's a conversation that we need to have, that we will have on Monday at Christ Memorial Church. Christy Buck will be there. Christy, for someone who can't see the forest through the trees, who is in the depths of depression, will this conversation on Monday be of use at all?
Yes, it will be. And there will be, I know that the movie is going to come through giving hope to those. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the characters in the movie have different stories going on. We're going to be able to see there's a therapist in the movie. And so that's an important piece when somebody is at their depths of not seeing the forest through the trees. Okay. Right. So they need to, hopefully they'll reach out and talk to some clinicians afterwards. We'll have people around who folks can talk to. And we have resource cards, so hopefully, I'm sure Ottawa County Community Mental Health is a place where people can go and access services. There's also a helpline, 1-800-273-TALK. That is a national helpline. And so here in Michigan regionally, those phone calls are taken in Grand Rapids at Network 180. And that's the county community mental health system there. And so that is a national hotline, though. So we're going to reiterate that phone number.
Hope Bridge that will be shown next Monday evening at Christ Memorial Church in Holland on Grafskop Road. Mental health conditions are treatable. Suicide is preventable, and hope is real. Christy Buck from the Mental Health Foundation, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you next Monday night. It'll be at 7 p.m. Get there early, though. We hope to fill this place and create a movement. This is the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the culmination of a lot. This is the beginning of a conversation that must take place in our community concerning mental health and suicide prevention. We'll see you next Monday, Christy.
Super. I'll be there.
Thank you.
So carefree, with a joy that's hard to hide. And sometimes it seems that all I have to do is worry, and then you're bound to see my other side. I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood.